Hey, what's going on, everybody? Southpaw NeoWiz just dropped the most anticipated patch of the season. This is Skul the Hero Slayer patch 1.5. Massive overhaul on both inscriptions, skulls, and the status effect system. This patch included 67 new items as well as changes to the overall UI and a lot more quality of life. I spent a little bit of time on the patch. I've done a couple of runs myself. I believe I have seen all of the new items, and in this video I want to give my thoughts on what I think about update 1.5. My name is Veedotme. I play a lot of roguelikes and other tryhard games. If that's the kind of thing that you're into, subscribe to the channel and check out the other videos we have. But for now, let's take a look at Skul's updates. One of the biggest changes you'll see when you load in is an actual UI improvement for your character info. Not only are the inscriptions color-coded once you hit the maximum amount, but there's a new character info page. You'll finally be able to tell what is your crit rate, what is your skill cooldown and quintessence cooldown, as well as your basic physical and magic attack. This was a detail that we never had before. I'm excited to be able to finally know if I have a high crit rate or not. On the character sheet, you'll also notice that a lot of the inscriptions are now changed in number value. A lot of inscriptions only activate once you get 2 of them. Many activate on 2 and 4. There are others that activate on 1, 2, and 4. And there are some that even activate on 1, 3, 5, 6. In the old system, if you took courage, for example, there were upgrades from level 1 all the way up until some astronomically high number. And that way you felt as though you were chasing after courage every single time you find it. But now you have the option to go for level 2 courage, and then if the next 2 inscriptions show up, then great. Otherwise, the effect that you're getting on level 2 is actually pretty substantial. Many of the inscriptions fit this model, where the first upgrade either does regular damage or some base effect, and then the next step is either an enhancement to that or a completely new effect on top of it. I actually really like this system. It means that you're always getting something, even at the base value of the inscriptions. But if you want to chase after the final step, then you have some kind of amazing benefit that you're rewarded in the end. Next up are the skulls themselves, and particularly one of the most impacted skulls is the Frost Skull. Frost, as you know, creates ice, and then it will deal damage based on frozen entities. In the past, bosses couldn't be frozen, so you really weren't getting any benefit from passives or anything of that nature. Now, bosses can actually be frozen and stunned, and a lot of the new inscriptions actually do bonus effects based on stunned enemies or frozen enemies. These aren't only tied to the inscription itself. If the skull has the benefit of status effects, it also applies those buffs. Of course, some enemies do have unstoppable attacks. You can imagine Chimera jumping backwards into the slam. If you froze it mid-slam, you're probably going to get hit by it, so those become unstoppable. Otherwise, with enough freezing or stun, the reliability on landing that, even with diminishing returns, it's actually fairly impactful. There are also changes to poison, wound, and burn. Burn and poison especially become real biome clearing builds of their own. Bleed had been in a good spot before, but now bleed does additional physical damage when you keep stacking it. All in all, the stats effect system just makes the player even stronger, and each one is very satisfying to land. There are other skull changes, a lot of nerfs that go around status effects. For example, some characters that can spam freeze have some of their cooldowns increase. From what I've been able to tell, there aren't any skull nerfs that are particularly detrimental to a class as a whole. Especially with all the new items and inscriptions, you'll probably have the cooldown reduction if you really want to spam these abilities. Now, getting into the items, there are a lot of items that were added. So many that I can't possibly cover them all. There's nothing that I've seen that's particularly bad, though if someone was to make a tier list, I wouldn't be surprised if there are a couple of things a little lower in the list than others. But really, with 67 items added to the roster, we're now in a position where finding the inscriptions that you want is more and more difficult. You may find yourself chasing after gold doors more often due to the fact that you have to reroll shops super often. In fact, as I'm going through this, there was an update just today, update 1.5.2, that reduce the price of rerolls and shops. It seems like the devs are already aware that there's a bit of a challenge chasing after the exact things you want. But then again, this is a roguelite game, so you may find that chasing after the dream Exodia build is probably not the right way to go. And you may have been better off either swerving into a more powerful inscription or taking 2 tier 1 versions of an inscription that pair well together. For example, the artifact inscription increases your magic attack by 35%. At level 4, you gain meteors that strike down on the enemies. So even though chasing after level 4 artifact would be incredible, you may be able to get by with just stacking artifact along with wisdom and just getting more magic attack. The artifact is also tied to new melee combat, so you may want to get hidden blade to level 4 while keeping artifact at level 2. I'm excited to see if the devs have a long-term fix in mind besides just decreasing the values on the shops. In fact, I'm really surprised at how maybe aggressive is the right term the devs have been on hot fixing everything that was found in the patch. It seems like they have a real interest in keeping this game very healthy, and that's something that we like to see. For my overall review of this patch, I would say that I'm very impressed on what I see. Skul is definitely in a more fun state than it has ever been, and this is really one of the best times to play the game while waiting on the hard mode patch. Of course, there are certain details in Skul the Hero Slayer that I would like to see addressed, as well as this game really needs 5 things I wish I knew. It's kind of a hard game to just pick up, play, and know exactly how to get to the end of the game. Other than that, this has been an incredible patch from the dev team. I do plan to post some Skul the Hero Slayer content, showcases, as well as a couple of guides, so keep a lookout for that. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed and see you next time.